So, hold on one second. I'm gonna find something. Oop, where did my stuff go? Okay, forget about it. Basically, I was working on. Uh, I want to have my own company someday. I'm not gonna say the products that I'm gonna make, but obviously I have to supply things in the economy to afford what I want to do next. A lot of things are in space and or elements and molecular formations that we would need just to do a lot of cool things, not only inside of Earth's atmosphere, but also outside. Um, a meteor landed in the woods one day, and I found it. I was just it was nice. It was a little shiny. It had its rock structure, obviously burnt up from entering the atmosphere, so it was a little smooth. Um, I found it and had it with me ever since, somewhere in my room. Its little magnet has been like really cool. This was like a few years ago. I was messing with something in the atmosphere. We can talk about that later. It's like um, things outside around Earth, like rocks and stuff or whatnot. Little meteors just in around Earth's gravity. Anyways, I had it for a little bit, and it made me think I would like to make a company to make robots and do build things with the robots. You can do it remote control, like, so I can do it in my office. Have my office, have like my gloves on. I can move my robot arms, or I can do it with a remote control. Like I'm playing a video game. I have multiple screens, or multiple robots, probably like around 80,000, or like and like have 80,000, maybe like 40,000 employees, and we all like have a few robots, and we just control them and mine or whatnot, or just build things. We don't even have to mine. We can build like other things like I mean, so there's a lot of ways how we can use, for example, the moon, and or the orbitals around the gas planets or Mars. Um, for example, sorry, not to try to sit too close. For example, when we see that the different atmospheres have a different type of electronic configuration corresponding to the elements that are sustained into its gravity. Its gravitational strength obviously indicates the different types of phase matter and or the attraction to different types of particles and their charges to the statical distribution of its radiation. Since its radiation will always be radiative because of its active cores and or active gas like plasma variation of hydrogen, um, would indicate a specific frequency. Um, Even if it was living, non-living, still sustains different things and or different charges of mass. The living quantity of the planets would thus will have to be in the perfect temperature, and or obviously Mars could have been a stronger gravitational strength. Thus, it lost its nuclear activity, most likely decayed from being so close to the asteroid belt. Anyways, there's many different possibilities going on there. We could make a living. We can even crash meteors into Mars and make the volcano or the core more active. That would be the activation of Mars, though, in making its radiation stronger. Thus, its radiation isn't really that strong. So I'm guessing since Mars radiation was probably at its brightest, the dinosaurs was most likely around because its volcanoes seem to be active. So it was either living around the pre was it the around when the dinosaurs were around, or it was living before the dinosaurs. It anyways, it really doesn't matter. It's so close to the asteroid belt, it doesn't really have protection. Although we can make technological protection, and we can build things on the surface to interact with deep space, and or we can use its energy like crystals and or what is it called? Um, um, Elements formations that can be used in a different way than the elements on Earth. Thus, it's at a different distance of space, as an astronomical distance, so it always preserve things that spin stored of gravity that's not here on Earth. Um, For example, we can use the orbitals around the gas planets to make these things interact with the gas planets. We can put robots on them, make a different type of radio wave guidance, of frequency, um, igniting different signals corresponding to the sustainment of electrical currents from the gas planets in its plasma-like phase. An element charge, which would most likely be like metal, so it'd be like a charged metal like planet, liquid, filled with hydrogen. Because although all of the gas planets are completely different, anyways, and they can interact completely differently, and we can interact with them too using different types of sending packets into them, and or like having things stay at a specific area while we see the charge duration of its storm quantity and how it makes and harness different ripple like electrons. The electrons will never stop. It's like electrons are always going to be around us, and the regions of electrons will always have a specific frequency, um, and the spin transport or like transportation kind of can like zap around, where it can either be connected through the ripple, which will have to have a domain, and or it can travel from transporting from ripple to ripple like a duality of waves and harness into a medium through the four states of matter. Since the four states of matter have like, um, obviously we're saying, um, what is it, solid, liquid, gas, and plasma. So those are our four states of matter, and the transferring of the medium will always be at its prime. So if we can do a lot of things with the gas planets, we could talk about that later. I'm not really trying to talk too much detail about it because I could talk for hours about the solar system. Thus, you know, corresponding to the path of the planet and its distance from the sun will always be at the same distance. People will always be, um, you know, I don't know, um, focused on what's going on underground, I guess. And it's kind of hard for me because I'm always focused on outside, and yeah, but it's whatever. Um, Back to the company. It really wanted to make mining, not really mining robots, but just robots just to build things out there because we don't really have to mine that much. I mean, we could, although using the charge of the orbital, we can make a lot of things that are great, greatly different if you think about it. I mean, because if some of their atmospheres can sustain energy completely different, so we would have to completely re-rationalize how it would be built there while we're onto the orbital around some gas planet or rock planet. And sustaining a charge into its atmosphere could be rapidly different in our fire, and fire could just probably hover out in the air because of its gravity. But we would need some sort of container or sustainment, kind of like Faraday's cage, I guess. But a little bit different, not really for the fire, or if it's technological, I mean electrical, we can sustain energy some other way, um, and then and make different types of electrical signals and or amplifications of around the gas planet. We do a lot of things. I mean, again, it's not really like things that are imaginary. It's more like things that would have to do with the galactic center and the charge-like reactions from the gas release because the sun released gas is constantly nonstop. The charges of the particles that are released are always going to be attracted to a different type of charge. Obviously, you see uh, magnets. Magnets will always be attracted to or repelled from other magnets. Some electromagnetic fields would indicate a different statical distribution of an attraction to the clouds and or the gray matter, which is released from the stars. The gray matter that's released from the stars, obviously, some are really visible and some are not. Um, if you look at the sun almost every day, gray matter is released. As gray matter makes up a lot of the universe, so you have to understand how these different charges will, and or electron clusters would encase the different types of phase matters corresponding to the galactic center and or the stars. But anyways, you can see a charge indication from all of their auroras or their aurora-like state as they are spinning on their axis. Thus, as their axis shifts, it's always a different nuclear phase throughout its turbulence and or acceleration phases. Um, Acceleration phases on Earth are visible because we see um, volcanic reactions here or earthquakes. So it makes the acceleration of the core or the shifting of the core corresponding to the cooling system, which is the north and the south poles, would make the core spin differently, corresponding to hydrogen. Hydrogen would be the reasoning of why it's so different. And or the detections of space as we travel through these different sectors around and arcs around the galactic center, since it will always be like a different um, phase of its acceleration due to the different nuclear reactions that happens from the galactic center, and or it would always go through um, a different phase here corresponding to the north and the south poles. So since the north pole is melting, the different turbulence phase would obviously indicate that it's more statically higher on the north pole side. So the cooling system would be a big shift in the axis since it's not cooling that great. So the climate change would indicate a polar change. Pretty much. So if we don't figure out what to do with the climate, the polar change will figure out what to do with us.